All right, everybody, this is the Hurdy-Burk Broadcast Network in Austin, Texas, and we have a treat for you guys tonight. I actually, Rob, do these on audio, right? So this is kind of unique for anybody that's listening in. They're going, oh, we get to see the guy we always hear every Tuesday night, and we have a special broadcast on Wednesday night instead of Tuesday night. I posted that to everybody, so if you guys are watching tonight, I've got a guest all the way from Connecticut, Rob Hotaling. Did I say it right?
Hotaling.
Hotaling. Okay, that's fine. That's why we go through it. And we're going to be talking about some and I put it's a big deal in my tag, Rob, when I posted this on my networks, that you're very creative and you've come up with some pretty cool stuff. And I want to let my sponsors know, I have 10, that because this is a show outside our region, and my business sponsors are local, Rob, I don't want to put links on your custom player. You're going to be launching a Kickstarter pretty soon, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. And so we want to make sure that that player, after the show's over, we call it the after show, right? Because you're going to have a chance to put this broadcast out to anybody you want, so you can build up the momentum for that launch. And so, Rob, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And man, here you are all the way up in Connecticut, and I'm way down here in Austin, Texas. Isn't technology amazing?
Exactly. Every day, just what, a decade ago, this wasn't possible.
I was telling somebody not too long ago, I used to have a sports broadcast network online, and this was back in the 2004 range, and when you had to have somebody manually standing at a server to connect it, and you weren't even sure the audio stream was going to stay on, right? So it was like crazy stuff. Yeah. Well, anyhow, I'm going to introduce you really quickly, okay? And then you can feel free to go a little bit further with this, but I've got you as a software and electrical engineer, right? You're an entrepreneur. You're CEO and founder of Verbi Inc. And you mainly dabble right now in the security and crisis management company, providing real-time alerting of school emergencies and security breaches to the police, EMS, fire department, and tablets, smartphones, school administrators, and staff. So that's that first line of that big letter. And by the way, let me do this real quick. Cheryl Henderson, thank you for connecting us. I want to give her a big shout out. She's been emailing me back and forth and sending me lots of information. She really stays on top of organization, and I love that. I wish everybody came to my show was as organized as you guys were about providing me information. So is there anything you want to add to that? Because you were raised in Providence, Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So anything else? What should we know about you?
Well, my interests in, I would say, technology started when I was much younger. So
like 10 is what.
Yeah.
So right.
My cousin bought a Commodore 64, if you know what that is, and
I do.
A little bit, but I remember writing a little program that got a dot to move around the screen. I was so amazed at such a young age that I just, at that point decided, software is something I really want to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And fun. And so how did that progress? This is more of the personal. This isn't any of the questions we're asking, but before 10, right? You guys that were raised a little bit in that computer, I was not. Remember, I was like 60s, 70s guy. I didn't get caught up till like late 80s and really into the early 90s, correct?
Right.
So what was your first one again? What was it, a Commodore?
Commodore 64, yeah.
Holy smokes!
It was very dominant in the market at the time, and it surpassed even IBM and things of that nature. So it was more or less a gaming device, in my opinion, and a word processor.
Absolutely, that's what everybody kind of considered that to be. Right. But I remember those dual floppy disks. Remember the big 5/4-inch one?
Right.
And I remember building 286s and 386s, right, in like 92, 93, and a 10 megabit hard drive, IBM hard drive, was over $700. A 10 megabit, it's crazy.
Yeah.
How much cost has come down.
Yeah, so it really is amazing how far and how fast we've come. So.
Yeah. Well, listen. This is your show tonight. I want to make sure that we get a chance to dive into something I think that you're really onto, and I think there's a story before we start. And I think when we did our test, we kind of covered that. You're not too far from pretty much a major disaster or major school problem, and so tell us a little bit about that. Then we'll kind of launch into the Verbi, okay?
Yeah, yeah, of course. So as we know, there's been an epidemic of, unfortunately, school violence in this country. And I live here in Cheshire, Connecticut, which is about 15, 20 minutes away from Newtown, Connecticut, which most people associate with the Sandy Hook tragedy. So as a father of three myself, I felt really compelled in some ways to pursue something, just something to try to stem the violence. And so, as we all know, that tragedy occurred a couple years ago in the month of December. And
Right.
since there's been a lot of people who are just hungry for new ways and approaches for addressing the problem in any significant way. So, and that's one of the things we really are looking to do is how do we help stem that school violence?
Right. And so leads me to my first question with you tonight, and that is, how would you describe Verbi and in a couple sentences? What is you must have some sort of slight mission statement, right, for that?
Yeah, yeah. If I were to describe it, I'd say that since the tragedies of Columbine, Virginia Tech, Sandy Hook, schools and communities across this nation are really hungry for those new ways and approaches for just stemming or solving a school violence problem, and that's what Verbi does. We make solutions that leverage different technologies in order to help improve first responders getting on scene faster.
And that's cool. And so, how did you come up with the name? Because the name's kind of unique, right?
Yeah, yeah. It used to be our company used to be called Verbinden, which is Dutch for connect, but most people have
Ah,
fun pronouncing it, so we just shortened it to Verbi.
right,
So
right, right. Which is almost rhymes with my name, Hurdy, but we won't talk about that, okay? Because I kind of thought about that the other night. So, okay, so that's what it stands for. So you just shortened it from that other name because it was hard to brand and people couldn't pronounce it, so you just made it shorter, right?
exactly.
So what kind of gaps did you guys discover that you're working on? Right, I'm sure what you just talked about the school, but how did you discover and be persuaded to push forward on this gap that you discovered?
Yeah, well, really, it started with the birth of my son 5 years ago. After that occurred, and then a year later, I had twins. As a father, I just sat back and thought, someday they're going to go to school, and I'm aware of all these, it seems monthly, right, that
Right.
something's in the news. So I felt like, well, how do I just get into this? How do I get ahead of this? And when I started researching, I realized that there really is a lack in schools across this country in terms of centralized control and coordination of security systems. So, for
Sure.
example, a door lock in a fire security system don't really communicate well within a school. So again, that's one of the things we look at doing is just integrating with third-party systems and centralizing it on a smartphone or tablet.
And I think at this time, before we get to some more questions, to talk about your background, you've got a software background, correct? Development, coding, all the stuff I don't like to do, but there's people like you that love to do that.
Right.
Uh, so you see things probably right physically, and then you kind of figure out is there a way to make that through coding and software connect and talk to each other, right? And come up with a solution.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, and I probably have to give a shout out myself to thank Cheryl for putting us together. But I often go quickly to thinking about technology or in technological terms for solving
Sure.
problems. Sometimes I got to slow down.
That's
So
okay.
since all through high school, when my father got me a Mac, he was an entrepreneur. He started his own software company, and so my first real job was working for him during college. So I came out of college around the dot-com bubble,
Sure.
and we at that time I just started looking. Okay, what else is there in the market for me to do? And software was really a real draw for me. But during school, I felt the challenge of electrical engineering. I really enjoyed it, and it gave me a lot more discipline uh, from both perspectives, from an engineering discipline approach.
Yeah, and so obviously you guys have now kind of deemed this to be your a flagship product. What is the flagship product? What do you consider that to be for Verbi?
Yeah, well, at its core, Verbi Security is a threat warning and avoidance platform that centralizes and coordinates third-party systems from smartphones and tablets. So, for example, if shots are fired in or around a school, our system will detect it, assess the threat, notify users on smartphones or tablets, and
Right.
call all in an automated fashion.
Okay. And so I'm going to make you get a little bit more lay on that. I'm going to make you break that down in simple terms. What does that mean to me, to the guy out there on the street, or the administrator, or the first responders?
So if say a situation occurs at a school, you walk in and you're an administrator, you're in your office, or you're a student, you're in class, or a teacher in class.
Sure.
From now, if you have this application running on your phone or tablet, you'll get a notification right on your phone, on your device, stating where, when, and what occurred, and if the police have already been notified, and potentially a way to avoid that threat. So instead of going, down one hallway, you go down another hallway. And it's for both human and non-human threats. And by non-human threat, I mean fire, for example.
Right.
If fires occur,
weather problems, things of that nature, correct?
Exactly. It's really based on whatever input we can acquire. We can put it through our threat analyzer and make a determination on what to do.
And what's cool about that is you're actually not only warning people, but it sounds like it's got a built-in way to give people an escape or an exit or a strategy to take care of themselves, right? Anybody, and that's awesome. So the administrators are coordinated within that environment. To each one of them can react differently to that. That's awesome.
Right, right. And to be a little serious for only a moment, none of us want any of these types of situations to occur, regardless if it's someone walking in with an agenda, with weapons,
Absolutely.
or it's a fire, right? But
Absolutely.
Right now, what occurs in a lot of schools and academic institutions is that they tell people, go wait and hide. And often, that's a tough situation to be in, obviously. But if you can just get a little bit of assistance on where something is occurring and maybe where to go in the opposite direction, I think that alone can really, even if it saves one life.
It's worth it. Yeah, really absolutely. Yeah. And we don't want that to ever happen. We know that, right? So, right. But we're glad we have something. So, obviously, there might be other people in this realm, this field. Competition. I know nobody likes to hear that, but I've always said competition makes one really think harder and get smarter in their application. Correct. So, how do you differentiate yourselves from some of your competitors in this field?
Yeah. Well, a lot of the competitors they have security systems, but again, from an industrial perspective in a school, it's quite different than a residential. So they're independent from each other often, and they don't really integrate. And that's one of the core things that we're doing. We're integrating with any third-party system, really. It takes a lot of working with the schools and the vendors to do this, but that's one of the efforts we're really pursuing.
So that's awesome. So you're actually extending out, if I just heard you right, you're taking something that's in place and making it better and adding to it, and that's where you're differentiated from your competitors, right?
Right.
So, I should have asked this earlier, and this is way down the list a little bit, but I guess we've kind of mentioned it some, but what is that target market is the most important thing that we're going after, right?
Right, right. I would say our target market are really, they're really school boards. They're out there dealing with this epidemic of a problem, and they're not really certain of which solution is helpful without changing anything existing in place, adding to it, adding a layer of security so that when people walk through that front door, or when a parent like myself, I let my child walk through that front door, I want a greater sense of security for them. So those school boards are really our end customer, our target market. But in some ways, the parents who are their customers, they're also definitely, even though we don't sell directly to them, they're just as curious or worried about the safety of these children, as well as administrators, school boards, superintendents, and the like, and principals. So that's really who we're targeting this towards.
And we've got a lot more questions to go. One thing I want to throw in right here is that you are one of the reasons we're doing this archive show tonight. We're doing it live, but it's mainly going to be the on-demand that you guys are pushing out. You're going to be launching soon a Kickstarter program for this startup, correct?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about where that's at, what's going on, and what's the plans for that.
Yeah, so for those who are unaware of what Kickstarter is, it's a crowdfunding site. Probably the most popular one definitely in this country, if not globally. And traditionally, to fund projects like ours, you'd have to go through, venture capitalist firms, investors, things of that nature. But often, they may look at it and go, well, how do I make money off of a school? And
Yeah. Do you think?
I've been at this. But, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. Just because you want to make money doesn't mean you can't also help solve a problem in society, or at least make a dent in it.
Absolutely.
So I think Kickstarter offered us the best platform to do that. So it really allows everyone to be engaged in
Right.
part in a sea change for safety. So parents at home, students, administrators, people who don't even have children, who just want to say, hey, how can I help? They can all go to one site and pledge money and back a project that they really believe in. And that's one of the reasons I went to Kickstarter.
And that's awesome. And I know that Kickstarter requires certain things like a video about what you're doing, and then you have to give them something. There's like a couple things you have to decide you're going to do as a reward for those folks. And I know you guys are working on that, but the whole deal with us doing this tonight is giving you a chance to have some content to start pushing out. And I know you want to get the word out before you actually launch it. So that's where we're at right now, right? We're T-minus something and sitting there waiting for the launch of this. That's awesome. So do you guys have a team? Do you have more than yourself, or do you have a team of folks?
Yeah. I mean, as you know, for everyone in the audience tonight, a lot of entrepreneurs, you wear many hats. So yeah, I do a lot of things, but one thing I learned, you can't make a company by yourself. You need a lot of great people. So yeah, my wife obviously is definitely involved as a mother of our children, but also as a parent. So that's the first line. But I also have family, friends, and associates who are helping us. So a lot with engineering backgrounds, some with intellectual property, some with finance, and some with PR and marketing backgrounds. So there's a good team, part of this effort, and we're all excited about really getting this Kickstarter project up and just making a dent in improving school security.
And I would imagine are there filings for this software to be patent prioritized? To prepare. I just can't think of the word, but you know what I'm saying. Keeping it proprietary and making sure that it's under you guys' umbrella. Or is it open source? How are you going about handling that?
Actually, that's a really good question.
Thank you.
Some of the methods and approaches that we're taking, we are in the process of patenting, right? So we have filed a couple.
Right.
Process of filing a couple. But then there's also a mixture of trade secrets. And then regarding open source, because affordability is a key concern for a lot of schools, and that's really why solutions like this haven't existed. So what we did was we carefully selected the best open source technologies in combination with some commercial technologies to get the right amount of functionality that we need to leverage so that we could make an affordable solution for any school's budget, really.
Right, and my coach told me that there's two things I need to do in my business. I need to be growing ahead of my business, and I need to be thinking into my results, correct? That is, we're thinking down the road. So you're a CEO of a company, you have a team of people. And I'm curious to hear this, what are some of those challenges you go through, like day to day?
Day to day, it's really aligning and attending to all the different moving parts, as you can imagine. So the exciting thing about being an entrepreneur, and all the entrepreneurs listening, is that it's an exciting challenge. Even though it's tough, there's nothing I'd rather be doing, right?
Right. Yeah. Right. And so, are they born or made? What's your opinion?
I think both. I think the right temperament in perseverance in order to do it, but you also need a catalyst to just make you take the full plunge.
Right. Now, we're getting into some fun stuff, and we'll keep mentioning Kickstarter and coming back to this, but what is and I'll probably confess mine here in a minute, what is your favorite piece of software that you use every day? And it might surprise people, right?
Maybe. I mean, there's lots of great apps on my phone, don't get me wrong,
right.
On my tablet.
Oh, yeah.
But I'll tell you, the one that makes me most productive right now is a software called Atlassian Jira, or Jira. It's Jira. I don't know if anyone in the audience ever heard of it, but it's a project management issue tracking tool that allows you to collaborate online. It's really just the world's leader in this type of software, and if it wasn't for that, I don't know if we'd get as far as we have with this project. So That's
So it
really
actually pulls and collaborates everything your team's doing together, so you can look at your benchmarks on that, see where you're at, down to day, time, hour, minute, right?
yes,
That's
exactly.
pretty awesome. Now mine's a little bit simpler. Mine is a 7. I put a little checklist on my app on the front of my phone, and every day I date it. I list 7 things that I have to do, and I make sure I get those done. That's my priority list, right?
That's
Everybody has their system, and then I pull in what I've got to do outside of that. But I put my urgent list together, and those things I have to accomplish. So, see, everybody has their way of doing it, right?
and I might take your advice on that because
Well,
sometimes.
somebody, I was in a coaching session, Rob. It was so funny, and a guy said, I think it was a story of Henry Ford. A guy tried to go sell him something, uh, and he didn't see him for months, and I think the guy went every single week, right, to try to get an appointment with him, and he didn't. But one day he didn't show up, and the guy came out and said, "Where is this guy? He didn't show up today. Call him. I want to talk to him." So the guy came in, and the guy said, Henry Ford said, "I have nothing to give you, right? But if you can come up and give me an idea that'll make our company money and help us be more productive, I'll pay you $20,000." And so he came back with 6 things all your managers need to do every single day. I thought that was pretty cool,
Yeah,
right? I may have gotten the story a little bit wrong, but I made the point, right? And that is that that's helped me a little bit. But yeah, your project management, but see, that's for me. If I had a bunch of people, I'd be doing the same thing as you. I would have to have either docs or something that where I could collaborate and share and have real time tracking on, because it just makes total sense. And since we're connected, why not?
right.
Right? Why
Right.
not? So, what has been your biggest challenge in developing this security? I'm almost thinking out loud to myself, but
Uh,
wow.
yeah, I would say integrating the various systems because they're all different. And of course, there's vendors behind them, but integrating them and then naturally trying to predict where a threat might be going and then potentially the avoidance of that threat. The combination of these 2 things I think are really the greatest challenge. But again, it's really exciting just working on it and trying to solve this problem.
Yeah, and then when do you think that the physical software will be fully ready for it? Is it after the Kickstarter? Is there things you're going to have to complete on the back end once you get it to a certain beta test level?
Yeah, actually, we've been working with a school security officials here in the state of Connecticut at every
Awesome.
step of development. So in some ways, this project and product have been vetted since the beginning. So what we're trying to do is put together a pilot potentially right now for next summer, potentially for an elementary school or a high school. So really, they asked me, well, when do you think? And I said, really, 6 to 9 months, we could have a pilot, and then within 12 to 15, we could have a production-ready system that you'd comfortable. It would be mission critical, and we'll have a real test of it and everything. When we're not there, someone would come in when we're not there and test the system, make sure it works.
And the cool thing is you're kind of vetting your pieces of it as you go along, because you've got some cooperation, obviously, because of this problem the scare of the fact this could happen anywhere, right? Any neighborhood. So you're getting people to vet the process and seeing what the bugs are, which is a great way to test the software, correct?
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
All right. So what entrepreneur influenced you the most in your life? Or do you read a lot? I guess I should ask first.
Yeah. I do read a lot.
Okay.
If you can imagine, I've read a lot of technology
I was
books.
going to say technology is probably the forefront of that, right?
Yeah, technology books. But there is a book that I haven't gotten to it yet, only because of all the stuff we're doing. But the
Sure.
moment I get a chance, one of the books that I'm thinking about is complementary to what we're doing. In fact, it's one of the rewards for a Kickstarter. It's a book called Guns at School: A Systems Perspective, and it's written by Barry Richmond. And it
Awesome.
really is figuring out patterns, not with no technology, figuring out patterns on how to solve violence in schools and approaches that schools and administrators can take. And we're really excited because they've actually agreed, if we wanted to attend a conference that we plan on putting together in the near future after the Kickstarter is
Wow.
successful, and
Yep.
maybe give a speech about how it's complementary, how you can potentially tackle some school violence problems completely without technology. So, because technology is not the answer to everything, as we know.
No, but because you get to go to that and you get to read that and tie it together, you can come up with some new ideas, or maybe fill in some gaps that you didn't think of that they've created, right? That they've kind of thrown at you a little bit. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
And so uh, let's go back because we might have some new viewers on. And like I said, your archive's going to be where you get most of your viewers. But let's mention again that you guys are in process of launching Kickstarter not too far off in the distant future. But you want to build up momentum, and that's why we're here tonight, correct?
Yes, exactly. And again, Herdy, thank you so much for having us.
Oh, man,
we're really excited. We've put together a great video. In fact, we're coming out with some other subsequent videos here that we're going to be posting on Facebook, on Twitter, on our own website. And so, yeah, we're really ramping up. And so what we're estimating at this point is maybe the first or second week of September launching this. So we're just trying to get the word out and see, spread the word, and through the crowdfunding platform of Kickstarter, really test and see how serious are people about doing something that could potentially save even one life, and that's really what our goal is. So we're really excited. The team's behind us, schools, right. And we've heard so many people who are just really like, I support what you're doing, keep going, and let me know how I can help. So it's really great time.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, don't forget about YouTube, okay?
Yes.
You don't forget about that YouTube channel. That'll help you too. All right, so you've been, and I'm reading this one off because it's a little longer question, if you don't mind. So if my contact loses you, I'm not doing it. I can't. I need to focus on the question here. So you worked at a research company helping mature companies and startups. So it sounds like one of the things you like to do is help others through their startup process?
Yes.
Is that your question?
Yeah, many years ago I did work at a company that did a lot of intellectual property, trademark searching, things of that nature. I actually had a dual role. I researched, I learned about the patenting process, the trademark process, as well as being a software developer all at the same organization. So the one thing it taught me, to be honest, is the value of intellectual property to a business. I mean, in some ways it's invaluable, regardless if it's a copyright, a trademark, a patent, a trade secret. Just how you approach it, maintain it, and use it to your advantage as a business is very important.
And if you mentioned that, and I'm thinking right off the top of my head, it's hard to believe that there's actual businesses out there, especially in the realm I'm in, that don't back up their data.
Yeah.
It drives me crazy.
Yes.
It's their livelihood, but that's another story. All right. So good. All right, cool. So you've been at Verbi 3 years, correct? That's about the timeline. When you start a company, man, there's always hindsight, right?
Yes. Yes.
What would you have done different, or what did you learn from that? A lot of people probably want to know that as a business owner, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure that a lot of people listening tonight would probably say this. There's so many things I wish I would have done long ago. So for me, really, I wish I would have started this years ago. Instead of 3 years ago, 6 years ago, 10 years ago. I wish I would have pursued this because, honestly, this problem has been around for a long time, right? I think Columbine is over a decade, right?
Were you thinking about that when that happened? Did that cross your mind back then?
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
If you ever, and I don't know, it's a bit graphic, but I don't know if anyone in the audience has ever, or you, Ernie, have ever watched any of the video surveillance footage, but it's really heart-wrenching, and it's just like, what can these people do? And those types of things are what really motivated me. But again, going back in time, I wish that I would have pursued that prior even to becoming a father. That's really something that, I would have changed.
Yeah, well, that's cool. But you know what? I always say that the right time is generally the right time. It's good to go back in hindsight, wish we started something, but if we think back on our lives, maybe there was stuff that kept us from making that happen at that time, and there's always the right time, right, in the right place, and I think you're there right now.
Right.
And I wanted to say that personally, just this brief time we've been talking, I see a lot of thought, I see a lot of dedication and passion to what you're doing. It's coming across loud and clear, and I think that's what most people are going to love about when they see this. Right? That's awesome. Your company's current primary focus, I think we've kind of talked about that, right? It's on this this software and making sure this gets vetted and validated and in the marketplace, correct?
Yes, yes. So our only focus right now is this Kickstarter campaign and just making Verbi security the best we can make it. Really.
Right.
So, yeah, we're really excited too. It's really come together, and we've already made a lot of leaps and bounds on it. So.
So until this launches, let's say that we're going to put this out and give you guys a custom player, but we might have some people pick up on it on YouTube as the archive later too. What is the best way if they're interested right now in talking to you and don't want to wait for that, right? And really want to have a conversation with you. I want to make sure I give them some sort of email or maybe a second email that's not your primary, right? How would they get a hold of you now if they like what they've heard tonight?
Well, really, there's three ways, really. Our
Okay.
website,
Right.
which is just verbi.co. There is a German company who has the .com, but and then
Good for them.
Facebook and Twitter. If you just go to facebook.com/Verbi Inc. or
Okay.
twitter.com/Verbi Inc. Those are probably two of the most popular social media platforms, as well as we're on YouTube and.
Right.
And Pinterest. So, of course, maybe if you're so gracious to us, Herdy, we could share some of these URLs later.
Well, I was going to say, if you guys, after this show, will have Cheryl or yourself email me those physical URLs, I'll put them in the player in the social networking tab so they can go directly and add themselves to it. That's cool.
That'd be great.
So where do you see the company 5 years from now? Don't you love those questions? Isn't that like the question you get when you're being interviewed? Where do you see yourself with our company 5 years from now, right?
Right. I mean, because you're so focused on the now, right? But
right. Yep. Absolutely.
I would say in 5 years, we really would like to enter the workplace as well, because the same solutions apply in both areas, and there's just as much concern there at the workplace as there are in schools. So that's really would be our focus, or where we'd like to be in 5 years.
Now, you think in terms of, I guess I would call you a pragmatic thinker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, logical, right? But Cheryl put a very interesting wrench question in here. I'm sure you've got them in front of you and you've seen them too. But she's got a question that says, what advice would you give to an entrepreneur that's looking to start or launching a startup? What would you like to tell them?
I'd keep it simple. It's find the best people. That's
right.
really what it is.
And that may be easier than it sounds, right?
Well, yeah, that's actually one of the hardest things you can do is find great people. And honestly, I have great people around me. I really wouldn't have gotten as far as I have if it weren't for that fact. And you can't build a company by yourself. I mean, most people think they're Superman or Superwoman, but it really takes other super people around you. It takes a team. So that's really what I would advise.
Yeah. The old joke about entrepreneurs was, you saw a good entrepreneur when he was doing 24 projects and never completed a single one, correct?
Well,
I'm kidding, but I mean, entrepreneurs tend to go down so many roads, and you're right, the solopreneurship is kind of something you don't want to be in, right, if you can avoid it.
You bring up a great point, Herdy. And I learned this long ago, and some people might think I'm crazy when I say this. In the past, when I've applied for a job, for example, I like failing fast. I think entrepreneurs need to learn to fail fast and embrace it, because the quicker you fail, the quicker you can get to your success, and it saves you time. So you just got to brush it off and keep going. So I would say for me, that's one of the core things I learned, is that failing fast scenario, just getting up and keep going.
And everybody should know that there's not one single person that hasn't started a business that hasn't gone through mistake after mistake after mistake after failure after get up after sit down after get up, and each one of those benchmarks, I keep what they call an authentic journal. Right, that authentic journal allows me to write these things down, remember them, and find out what I did or didn't do, right, through the struggles. And I would tell a good entrepreneur, you probably agree with this, keep notes on yourself, and make sure that you remember what you went through, and you get smart, right?
Right.
You get really smart over time. One more question for you on some of your team, because I think this is critical. Is the team members you hired strangers, or are they groups of people that you had known, that you had been around and you brought them in? Are they somewhat friends? Are they family? Or
It's a mixture, you know.
Okay.
So, for example, one of my closest advisors, really, or two of my closest advisors, are my father and my uncle. My father is a serial entrepreneur. He was a
Right.
CTO. He started his own company. I think I mentioned this earlier. My first job coming out of high school, all through college, was working for his company. He had about 20, 30 engineers. And at the time, we were making, I don't want to lose the audience, but we're making an application server back in the heyday of
So
the
you're not losing. Go ahead. That's cool.
internet. And then my uncle is a senior electrical engineer who really influenced me in college to pursue that degree. And he's worked for three of the major five smartphone manufacturers as one of their most senior PCB designers. So, but moving forward from there, we actually have a couple people in our advisor group who are either ex-law enforcement, ex-military. One was a Coast Guard
Right.
officer.
Right.
And he used to be on the boats when you try to protect our borders, and you'd have to go on the boat and make sure you organize and know how you're going to proceed. So protect your own soldiers as well as the people on that
So a
vehicle.
lot of leadership skills
Yes,
in your organization. Big
exactly.
deal, right?
Exactly.
All right.
So,
So now here's a herdy question that's not on the list, but I'm going to ask it because I can. Okay.
all right.
And that is, what is a typical day like for you? What do you go through? What happens?
Oh boy.
There you go. See, I hit that button, didn't
Well,
I?
you know what it is? You wake up, you read all your email, and I got dozens of them,
Right.
and maybe more than that. And then you get to software, then you try to tackle some vendor questions, and then maybe you end the day with some marketing and some intellectual property work. So
Right.
it's
Or
been
do an interview with a guy named Herdy in Austin, right? As part of that typical day, right? I gotcha.
a difficult day.
So that's awesome. So yeah, so I guess what I was asking was, with you doing all the code and vetting this pieces out through the schools, I imagine there's meetings. I imagine there's a lot of collaboration with your team during the day. Probably problem solving sessions. Do you have like a round table? Do you have a problem solving kind of like hour where you guys sit down together and go, okay, let's talk about this?
Yeah, well, and this one thing, even with what we're doing here, streaming live, things like Skype and online collaboration tools like Google Chat have really
Yep.
allowed our team, because a lot of them are remote, some are local, and yeah, so every day I pick something to focus on, really, and move it forward and go deep in it, because you have a breadth across a lot of areas. So to go deep, sometimes you just got to schedule that hour meeting with one team. So for example, I sat with Cheryl, just yesterday, discussing,
Right.
okay, how do we, what do we want to convey in this interview? And so we just focused on that. And the day before, I was talking with our intellectual property advisor on filing some patents. So that's what I do. But I'm sure that everybody out there tonight, as an entrepreneur, even thinking about it, has to find some focus and some time management.
Okay, so because we're about 30, 40 minutes into the interview, because I've noticed a few viewers have come on a little late, let's go back. Let's talk a little bit about. Let's go back and reinforce, just to remind them what you're working on right now, project-wise.
Sure. So what we're working on is something called Verbi Security. We would consider it a threat warning and avoidance platform that centralizes control and coordinates third-party security systems from smartphones and tablets. So if, for example, shots are fired in or around a building, we detect it, assess the threat, notify users on smartphones or tablets, and dial the police. So that's really what we would categorize it. And what we're trying to do here is launch a Kickstarter campaign
Gotcha.
in the next couple of weeks, and we're aiming at the first week of September, but we'll let everybody know through social media or website when the actual date will be. It
Right.
is a process. We're excited. We're putting out some videos. So that's really what we're working on.
Okay, that's cool, and I'm glad you said something about the Kickstarter again. I think it's real important to know that this crowdfunding Kickstarter thing was kind of one of the biggest, coolest hip, and I'm using those words because uh, what an amazing tool, right? What a way for individuals passionate to go out and be able to start something by raising the money. Now I know they put a time restriction on it, and I think this is a good time to say, folks, once we launch this, we have 30 days. That's why we're pre-selling this right now. So
Yeah, because honestly, Herdy, I'm glad you brought that up because some people are confused. They're like, well, is it launched? Is it not? There's a reason why it isn't. We're coming out. It's sort of like a good movie, right? I don't know the
yeah,
last.
you're trailing it.
Right?
You're putting
You
the
don't
trailers out.
release the movie and then you start telling people about it, right? You start
Right.
telling people about the movie 6 months in advance, 3 months in advance. That's what we're doing. So because we only have 30, 45 days really to do this, and so when we launch, we want as many people to be aware of it as possible so that it can be a success, so that we can all partner in a sea change for safety.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And I've been through a lot of questions with you tonight. I don't want to overload our audience because the goal here is to really get them jump started to thinking about how cool this product is you're offering. And so this is where I say in the show, Rob, what did we miss? What do you really want to convey to the viewers of this show that's going to be out there in archive? What do you want them to know?
I'd want them to know this, really. What if there was an app that could warn you of a threat and tell you right on your phone, hey, it's over there. You need to go that way, like right now. And in fact, we've already informed the police and they're on their way, so don't worry about that. You know what? Isn't that worth pursuing, really? And if you think it is, I'd hope that you'd back us, you'd join this movement, you'd say, hey, how do I get involved and improve school security? Really, that's what I would want to convey and let users out there think about.
Yeah, and I think that comes across with your passion. I think because you live so close by what happened there last December, correct? Is that when this has been almost a year, a little over a year now, or close? No, not quite a year.
No, it's 2012.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, it's over that. It's time flies, I know, but and I think that the cool thing about technology is, like you said earlier, it doesn't solve all the problems, but it can sure be an asset. And you guys have sound like you've well thought it out, and that's awesome.
Yes, and
So
I would want the only other thing because you mentioned like what would I want people to know. We are
yeah.
working with the world's best vendors. So, for example, the same system that are used to detect gunshots by our special forces in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Oh.
We're working with one of those key vendors. So same technology, except that we're trying to scale it down from a military grade version to what we call a municipal grade version.
Sure.
So, that's one of the things. So in case people are wondering, well, how exactly are you doing this? So we are working with the world's best vendors in that arena. And then on the other side, obviously all of the major vendors that have door lock systems with schools, video surveillance, you name it, fire integration.
So
So
you're tapped into the real high-end side of this so that you guys are getting the best of the best vendors to collaborate with you guys and helping put this all together.
yeah,
I should have asked you. I never thought of that, but that is amazing. How did you guys do this? Did you just pick up the phone and give them a passion call and get there, or how do you do that?
I'll be honest. I've just called up companies
Really?
and just told them, what are we trying to do? I tell them, we're a startup. This is what we're trying to accomplish. Will you help us? And they have responded.
That's awesome.
It's really surprising, but you know what? There's so many people behind this. And for example, two of the country's leading mass notification companies. Some people have heard of Code Red. Some people have heard of One Call Now. These two companies provide auto dialing and notification of students and teachers and even just residents. So, for example, if there's ever been a blizzard or a flood or anything in terms of a natural disaster in your area and you got a notification on your phone, it's
Like
probably
a reverse call or something, or reverse text or something.
right. And honestly, both. And I don't want to plug a bunch of companies here, but I'm just saying that some of these major corporations have really responded positively to what we're doing, which is really encouraging.
So the bottom line is you got these great high-end companies that are helping on the back end that are cooperating with you guys, so it's making your job easier because you're getting to see what they're doing and fixing and putting this software with that so to kind of connect it.
Right.
And it just sounds like a huge endeavor to me. You know, I'm thinking just
Yeah.
knowing enough about coding and all the little things you got to test and make sure they work. That just sounds like a huge job. Did you feel like you were trying to bite an elephant all in one bite when you first started, or how did you break it down into your project management pieces? Because that's a question I'm asking you.
Well, I've been an architect for a long time from a software
Ah,
perspective, and one of the things I've learned is how do you break a big complex problem down, and that's really important. So really, you gotta circle around an area and say, you know what, that piece, this domain can be solved over here, and then
right.
this domain over here, and then how do they communicate? And then you really got to, and then even there, you break it down further. And then once you get those down, you put them in priority, and then you just start knocking them off one at a time. And eventually, before you know it, you've created something pretty incredible.
And
So
you know that's a good lesson for anybody in business, isn't it? Learning how to prioritize your projects within a project, learning how to solve them, learn how to get through them, and move on to the next one. I mean, that to me is like that, and it goes back to some of your engineering, right? It's the way you see things. So that's awesome. So any final thoughts, man? Anything? Because this has been your show. This has been great tonight. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. Thank you.
yeah, I appreciate it. First of all, Herdy, thank you so much for just
You're welcome.
the opportunity. We're very grateful. Really, I would say that for everybody out there, again, if there was a way that you could even make a dent to stem some of the school violence, maybe you're a parent, maybe you're not. I know me as a parent of 3 children who are going to school. When I put them on that bus, when I let their hand go and they walk through the door down that hallway, am I doing whatever I can to make sure that they're as safe as they can be? If you've ever had that thought, if you've ever had that feeling, this is just one outlet. There's many, but this is just one outlet. So just please join us in our approach and in this initiative. I think we could really do some great things together.
And what is your? Let's give them this because I'm going to be putting this in the custom player. If they want to visit your website, what is the website?
It's www.verbi.co, so verbi.co, or you can go to our Facebook or Twitter page and follow us there as well. So facebook.com/Verbi Inc, VERBIINC, or twitter.com/Verbi Inc.
And what we'll do for you is we'll make sure I've got a social networking list within the player that I can put all these URLs. You can just click directly to those on the player I'm going to provide for you. So all those URLs, if somebody could get them to me, say tomorrow, I'll probably put the custom player together tomorrow and tighten up the show a little bit and make sure of that. So any final thoughts for us? I want to tell you, I think I've made a new friend. Thank you. I love this. I hope we do this again real soon. You can always come on and talk about your company with me. You just got to let me know in advance so I have time to prepare for it. But I'd love to have you guys back as we get into the Kickstarter, right? And kind of keep us progressed and see the smiles on you guys' faces when this gets all done.
Yeah, so I appreciate it. I'd love to come back after we've had a successful Kickstarter campaign.
You will. It's going to happen.
Yeah, so I guess the only last thoughts I have are we're looking at launching the Kickstarter project in the first week of September, worst case second week. We'll keep everyone updated on our website and social media.
That's close. You're not far away, man. This summer's gone by fast.
Yeah, so, just if everybody on the first day, first week can really help us, and us also spreading the word, just saying, hey, check this out, take a look at this thing. What do you think of that? Is this something I could contribute to? And so, that's pretty much it. And again, thank you so much, Herdy. We'd love to come back after we've had some success and do a recap.
And let's tell everybody one more thing so we clear it, because some people might come in late, that you don't have the Kickstarter URL yet, but I'm pretty darn sure that it's going to be posted. If they go add you through our player to their Facebook page, you guys will start posting that out. You'll make sure I get it right for my network so I can post it out to my folks, right?
Yes.
And that's awesome. Okay.
Yes.
And I want to thank Cheryl again, Cheryl Henderson. She seems like she is very, very organized, very good about getting information, very diligent. She's a great help to your company. I can tell you that just from talking to her too. So
Yeah.
Thank you, Cheryl, if you happen to be listening in. You did an awesome job getting all the information to me. Made
I'm
it
so
easy.
grateful for her as well.
Yeah. And so I want to say thank you, and I want to thank all my listeners for joining us on the Hurdy Burke Broadcast Network. You know, we're just a small kitchen table talk show down in Austin. We call it our little show. We just cover Austin business for free. Like Rob, like entrepreneurs can come in. Our sponsors pay for our 20 show segments, and then they ante up for the next 20. And we cover local Austin business, giving them a voice and a show so they can embed it on their website and give them a technology tool. It's a tactic, right? One of the many tactics, and that's what we're going to do for you tonight. So in 24 hours, once I get all the URLs to your, and I'll start looking them up too, we'll have you a custom player all made. And can I ask you one more question? What are the colors of your website? I'm going to go look at it, but what are your dominant colors?
Dominant colors of
Yeah.
blue, red, white, and blue.
Well, there you go. I love it. Perfect. And we'll make sure that player matches up so it doesn't stand out like a sore thumb too, okay? And so,
Right.
hey, I wanted to thank you, man.
Yeah. No, thank you, Hardy. I really appreciate it. This was
Okay,
great.
you guys have a great evening. Good talking to somebody up in Connecticut. You guys take care. Winter's coming for you guys. We're just starting summer down here underneath, okay? So just so you let you know, 104 today. Have a great evening, and I'll tell Cheryl hi tomorrow. We're signing off. Good night, my friend.
Have a good one.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Bye.